Hello and welcome to the dining table here at Folk Rock Farm. I got the bulk of my seed order in, so I figured I would do a little video unboxing, kind of go over why we have chosen some varieties and basically just our favorites and what new ones we're excited to try. So with that, let us begin. I will start off by saying that all of the companies that we buy our seed from are very reputable sources. We've been buying from them for years, whether for our own farm or for the farm we work at. And the quality of seed has always been super good, really good germination, really good quality. Let's dive into it. So first, this isn't really seeds, but this is just a floating insect cover we're going to try this year. We have a really big brassica pest issue, and we would really like to be able to grow some cabbages and broccoli, so we're going to give that a try. So, from Johnny's, which is a seed company up in Maine, let's see what we got. The first one is just Boro red beets, just a really good classic red round beet, excellent for beet greens and for beets. I think Boro specifically is supposed to be a really good storage beet, so we'll probably do these ones later on in the year to try to store through the winter. One area of seeds I really enjoy buying from Johnny's is their cut flowers. They have a really good cut flower selection, and within the plethora of seeds you can buy for cut flowers, they also include really detailed instructions on how to get your best crop. So highly recommend Johnny's if you're looking to grow a cut flower garden. The first one here, I just have a Pro Cut White Night sunflower, which is this really gorgeous kind of pale yellow white sunflower. Thought that'd be really pretty in bunches. I'm probably going to butcher all these names, by the way, but if you're curious as to what variety it is, just let me know in the comments and I'll actually write it out. This is a celosia seed called Rain. It's all red, the stem and the flower, and it's one of those kind of like brain looking flowers. Really cool, really like celosia. And then we have a plum tomato, Granadero, a really good disease resistant plum tomato. Plum tomatoes can get really susceptible to blossom end rot, which is when the bottom of the tomato starts to rot. Really common in plum tomatoes, but Granadero is a really good variety where that doesn't happen. Gold Nugget carrot, by far mine and Rory's favorite carrot, just for pure snacking on. It's so good. It's a yellow carrot. Doesn't get huge, probably like, I don't know, yay big, but the flavor is so good. They're so sweet, and they're always got a really good texture. Doesn't matter if we plant them in the summer or the fall, they're super good. One of our go-to cherry tomatoes is Super Sweet 100. It's your classic small red round cherry tomato, very thin skinned, so if you are going to get a rain, I would definitely suggest going out and picking anything that's even remotely like almost ripe, because they are so thin skinned, they do tend to crack a little bit easier, but also because they're so thin skinned, they are delicious. They're not gonna pack or ship well, so you probably won't ever find something as delectable as this in the supermarket. Super Sweet 100, very good cherry tomato. Then we have a storage cabbage that we're going to try with our fancy new insect cover called Promise. I think this one was a smaller size cabbage, good for storage, so we'll do it later on in the year, probably start this sometime around July to grow into fall, to then harvest to store over the winter. And then I have a summer squash here called Zephyr. When we were looking for our farm, we actually visited a farmer who was trying to sell his organic farm and we went there, took a look around. It ended up being very much out of our price range, especially the house that they were trying to sell with the property needed a lot of work. So that didn't work out. But when we were there, the owner of the farm happened to mention Zephyr as his favorite summer squash that he ever grew. And we tried it last year, and it was not only one of the best tasting summer squashes, but the pest and disease resistance that this squash showed compared to the other squashes it was around was like crazy good. Like other plants would be chewed to bits, and Zephyr squash was totally untouched. So even just from one planting, we're pretty convinced that we might always have Zephyr in our garden. Plus it's a really cool looking squash. It's like a long yellow one, kind of like a typical summer squash, but then the very end of it's just like dipped in green pretty much, so pretty cool. Alright, phone. Shut my phone off. Alright, and another flower from Johnny's. Their Snapdragon selection is very nice. This one's called Legend Light Pink, and I grew this last year. It's a really beautiful, almost like translucent pink. It's known as a short day snapdragon, so they say it does a little bit better either over winter or early spring, so I'll probably just try to get this in the ground early spring. I find most of my snapdragons tend to peter out in the summer anyways, so I usually just focus on spring growing for them, but this color was really gorgeous, so I'm excited to do that one again. Let's continue. Red Ember is a cayenne pepper, and I've made the best hot sauce I've ever made from this pepper. And it's cool because it's a cayenne pepper, but it's thicker walled than your traditional cayenne. And it's a little bit sweeter and a little less hot, which is nice because I like hot sauce, but I also like flavor. And I feel like oftentimes some hot sauces are just too much for me personally. Like I like a little bit of heat, but I want to still be able to feel my tongue afterwards. So Red Ember is a really good cayenne for a balance of heat to hot ratio, and it makes a really good hot sauce. Next we have another squash, Green Machine. This is just kind of like your typical zucchini. Don't really have much to say about it other than it's just a good zucchini. I got Sonja, which is a branching sunflower, which I haven't toyed around with too much with pinching sunflowers to get like actually nice sturdy branching sunflower, multiple ones for cutting. So that's something I'm going to mess around with this year and try out. Another Snapdragon from Johnny's. This one's called Potomac Orange. Really pretty flower. It's orange, yellow, and pink, and it's gorgeous. So it made the cut. Our other go-to cherry tomato is Sun Gold. These are by far my favorite tomato I've ever tasted, and I've tasted a lot of tomatoes. So Sun Gold will always be in the garden. And I should have mentioned this about Sweet 100 too, but both Sweet 100 and Sun Gold are very good disease-resistant tomatoes, which when you live in a humid climate in the Northeast like we do, when we get a good amount of rain, disease issues are very prominent in tomatoes. It's hard to grow them organically. But man, Sun Gold and Sweet 100, they both come with a good disease package. Next we have another flower, Oxford Blue Salvia. This is a really nice fill flower. It's got this jet blue color to it. Like pictures don't do it justice. You really gotta see this flower in person. It's gorgeous. I got some Red Boar Kale. This is a red curly kale. I'm definitely a kale girl. Love my kale. Winter Boar, your standard curly kale. And we are doing Bolero for storage carrots, which we have done the last few years, and they've been a good storage carrot, so we're going to keep on with that. I guess we'll move on to the next big package, which is Osborne Seed Company. They're another company that has, I should get a knife, a lot of organic options. They sell treated seed as well, but they do have a lot of organic stock, so I like going to them for that. Companies like Johnny's and Osborne offer bulk discounts, so when you're getting like seeds in the thousands, that really comes in handy. So, from Osborne, we got our favorite slicing tomato. This is BHN 589. Terrible name, very textbook name, but this by far is the best, just classic slicing sandwich tomato we've grown. Again, has a really good disease package. Because we grow organically, we always try to lean towards crops that have good disease resistance, so we don't have to rely on any even organic sprays to put on them. With this tomato, you're not sacrificing flavor. It has really good flavor, and overall it produces a lot of tomatoes. It's technically a determinate, but which a determinate means all your tomatoes come at once, whereas an indeterminate means you'll get tomatoes through the season. However, we get tomatoes off of this BHN 589 plant practically throughout the season. I mean, we're picking from this thing for like months, so definitely our go-to for just your classic slicing tomato. Last year was the first year we grew Delight Mix pepper, and we've only been able to find this specific variety from Osborne Seed Company. It's a lunchbox pepper, which is like those smaller snack peppers you can find, but it's a big version of those peppers. And the reason why we like the snack box or lunchbox peppers is they seem to have better disease resistance. Any bell pepper we've ever tried to grow here has succumbed to some sort of disease, and we've had a hard time finding a bell pepper that has really worked for us. But with this pepper, Delight Mix, and other lunchbox peppers, we have really found that they just keep up a lot better. They produce a lot of peppers, and yes, they might be a little bit smaller, but they're perfect for snacking. And I love just slicing them up and cooking them or freezing them. So the size is nice because these are a little bit bigger than like your typical lunchbox pepper. But yeah, any pepper that has a good disease resistance is really good in our books because it's a issue we have here in the humid Northeast. By far our favorite cantaloupe to grow is Sugar Cube, and these are nice small little personal sized sugar cubes, and they have been grown to have like the highest concentration of Brix, which is sugar content. And their flavor is just outstanding. They are delicious. They can be very prolific plants. You can get many melons from one plant, and they're awesome. They store pretty well, although to be honest, we've never really had an issue having to store them because we eat so many of them. They're so good. So yeah, Sugar Cube is definitely our go-to for cantaloupes. So yeah, as I was talking about buying in large quantities, this is 5 pounds of fava bean seed, and you can actually get it at a reasonable price because you can buy it in bulk. So fava beans are really cool. They're one of the few beans that are actually frost tolerant and actually prefer to grow in the cooler weather. So favas are one of the first things we get in the ground in the spring, and they produce these nice fat beans that are absolutely delicious for cooking up fresh, for steaming. They freeze really easy. You could even let them dry on the pod and then use them as a dry shell bean. So fava beans are one of our favorites. So good. I'm running out of space here. Tuck Mr. Fava over here. Alright, so now we're kind of getting into like the smaller seed companies here. This is from Tomato Growers Supply. As the name entails, Tomato Growers is a website that has a lot of tomato varieties. Oh, I got a free seed, Bobcat Hybrid. Well, I'll have to grow that one and let you guys know how it goes. Oh wow, and another Hawaiian pineapple tomato. Sounds delicious. Oh wow, lots of free ones. I got some free seeds in here. Always tempted to try free seeds. Alright, the first tomato we got from them is Patty's Striped Beefsteak, which I actually got as a free seed packet from them in the past, and I grew it. And it takes both the qualities of like that delicious soft, supple taste you get from an heirloom tomato, and the texture is just perfect, but it holds up like a hybrid slicing tomato. And it's gorgeous. It's yellow with these like pink stripes throughout, and it has quickly grown to be one of my favorite just like eating tomatoes, like slicing it up, putting a little mozzarella and basil on it, a little balsamic drizzle. So good. It grows like a hybrid but eats like an heirloom, I would say. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, and it's seriously good. I think it's an heirloom, but honestly I'm not that sure. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like originally an heirloom, but they've since messed with it. Next one I got is Time Bomb, which is a cherry bomb pepper. Those little like round red and green ones you see in the store stuffed with meats and cheeses. Oh yeah. This is another hot pepper that's not ridiculously hot. Like you could eat it on its own. Probably like a little bit less hot than your typical jalapeno. But really good. We really like hollowing these out, stuffing them with meats and cheeses, and letting them sit in a vinegar oily mix. It's delicious. And we also like to stuff these and grill them. And I've also made a hot sauce from these that was also very good, and they dry super easy. So a very versatile hot pepper plant. Next, this one's called Carranza, and it's actually a type of poblano, and it's supposed to be an extra large poblano and a little less heat than your typical poblano. And poblanos usually aren't super hot anyways, but again, I'm not really super into hot peppers. I like a little bit of heat, but I'd rather more flavor than heat. So I have not tried this variety yet, but I do love stuffing poblano peppers, so we're going to give this one a shot. This one's Cayenne Sweetness. So this is actually a cayenne pepper, but it's sweet, so it has no heat to it. And I thought it would be good to grow this to mix in with some of my hot peppers for a lighter hot sauce, and that way you get a nice punch of flavor before your mouth starts to burn. And I got a tame jalapeno, and this is just a jalapeno that still has heat, has 1,000 to 1,500 Scovilles, and I think it says compared to like typically a jalapeno has 3,000 to 6,000, so a little less heat than your typical jalapeno, which is perfect for me. So I've never tried tame jalapenos, and the jalapenos I've grown in the past, sometimes it's like hit or miss. Sometimes I get a really spicy one, sometimes they're perfect. So I'm excited to see what this one's like. Fruition Seeds, which is a small seed company in New York. And they like to specialize in cold weather, short season growing, so they also have a lot of perennials, and they also focus on seeds that do well in our shorter climate. So I got a summer squash from them called Summer Squash Success PM. It's supposed to have really good powdery mildew resistance, so we shall see how this one does. It's my first time growing it. I also got this herb called blue vervain. It's supposed to be a really pretty flower, so I was hoping to use it for my cut flower bouquets also. I know it's good medicinally. I can't remember right now what it is good medicinally for, but I know it's perennial, and I know that the bees and pollinators love it, so I figured I'd give it a shot and see how I like it. Thyme, because who doesn't like lots and lots of thyme? This is a cabbage I'm really excited about. Let me see if I can get a... There we go. It's called Mermaid's Tail, and it's supposed to be this like kaleidoscope of colored cabbage, like purples to greens and blues, and it just looked really cool. So we're going to be trying more brassicas this year with our insect cover. So I'm really excited to try that one. One thing we did do this past year that we found very successful and we want to do even more of is growing dry beans for storage. It's just really cool. I found the task of shelling beans to be very meditative and relaxing. And then they don't need any power to store whatsoever. They dry right there on the plant. You pick them, you shell them, you let them sit for a few days, and then you package them up. And then it's so cool because they just sit there all winter. You didn't need to put any energy into preserving them, and they're just there to eat whenever you want to eat them. And then if you don't eat them, you can always plant them the next year. So we're finding we want to do more and more dry beans and just continue to store things that don't need energy to store. Anyways, so there's been a couple different varieties of dry beans I've been eager to try, and we've done scarlet runner beans and we've done black knight runner beans, and we have had really good success with the runner bean family. And then I found chocolate runner bean from Fruition Seeds, which looks pretty cool. It's just like a same kind of thing with the other runner beans. It produces a really beautiful flower. It attracts hummingbirds. It's again can be grown in cooler weather, which is pretty unique for a bean. And yeah, we'll give these ones a try and see how they do. This one is from Baker Creek, which is always a favorite of mine to get seeds from. So Baker Creek just sells heirloom seeds, and each seed comes with a cool story behind its origins, and I just think that's really neat. Baker Creek and other heirloom sites like that are really good for very unique seeds. And they also have smaller packaging, and each packet is usually somewhere between like $2 to $5, so it's really affordable. It's a good size for like home gardeners or even us who have a small farm operation. So the first one I got was just oregano seed. There's nothing really fancy about it, just wanted some oregano seed. Onions, this is yellow sweet Spanish onion. We grow a lot of onions and we love this variety. It has grown really well for us. This is our third year growing this variety, and delicious. It stores really well. In fact, let me show you what we have over here. So let me show you. These are the yellow onions we grew this year. These 3 crates here. On top we still have the remnants of our Elsa Craig onions. So yeah, for not being a storage onion per se, they have stored for us very well. And then we just have all of these yellow onions we still gotta work through. So definitely recommend the Spanish yellow onion from Baker Creek. We also have the Weathersfield red onion, and it's a major agricultural commodity in the 1700s. So it's cool to keep a little bit of history alive. And I find with some red onions, sometimes I really like the flavor, but they're a little bit too pungent. This red onion is like perfect balance between that red pungency that I really like, but also just good onion flavor. Again, this has been a good store for us. And then this onion we grew for the first time last year, Elsa Craig. And this one is not a good storage onion, but it is a big sweet onion. And even though it's not a good storage onion, it is mid-December and we still have some of these onions, and we harvested them probably like late July, early August, so they might not make it through the winter, but they've held up and delicious. These are so thin-skinned and sweet and really good. And the thing I like most about the Elsa Craig is that they grow so quickly, so fast. So during the summer months when our onions are just starting to bulb up, instead of reaching into our storage onions and like kind of taking some for summer eating, we will usually reach into the Elsa Craig onions and, you know, pick out some of those to eat during the summer months when we really want our onions. And they size up quickly enough where we can do that. Cucumbers, so we got Bait Alpha here, which is just a really nice mini cuke, thin skin, slices great. We've had a lot of success growing this cucumber, very prolific. This is Red Dragon Arugula, and I was just sold on how cool it looks. Let me see if it'll focus here. It's this arugula, but it's got a red stripe down the center of it, which I just think is super neat. So yes, we'll be trying some of that. Got some rosemary seed. Again, nothing too special about that, just wanted some rosemary. I got red orach, which this is in the spinach and lamb's quarter family. And it's this beautiful, deep, pinky red leaf. The thing I actually like most about the orach green is it reseeds itself decently easily. It's one of the first greens that come up in spring for salad, and it's tender, it's delicious, and it's this beautiful vibrant pink, which just adds such a pop to the salads. I love it. Marjoram, which is a herb I tried for the first time last year, and it's very similar to oregano, but kind of with this like hint of sweetness that's just really nice, so I'm going to be growing more of that. I tried to grow this last year and the slugs got it. This is Amaranth Pink Beauty. It's mostly grown just for its really vibrant pink stems and pink veining in the leaves. So I'll be trying this as another green this year. It's a free seed. Another one of our absolute go-tos in the garden now is this Hungarian blue poppy seed. This is the same poppy seed you can use for poppy seed breads. The flowers are one of the first flowers in spring, and they're absolutely gorgeous. And then even after it flowers, it makes this really cute pod that you can use in flower arrangements. And the bees go absolutely nuts for the pollen on these. They love them. And then once the show is over and your pod's dry, you can take your pod, and if it rattles, it's ready, and you just dump all your seed out, and then you can use that seed to replant your garden for next year, or you can use that seed in recipes and breads, and it really adds a nice texture to the top of the breads we make. It's really lovely. Got some more free lettuce seed. Last year was the first year I grew noodle beans, and I grew green ones. This year we're going to try the Chinese red noodle bean. My nieces and nephews absolutely loved these and thought they were fun. I do prefer a nice thin fillet green bean, but I will say, like, when it comes to harvesting, it's so nice to quickly harvest these noodle beans upright on a trellis and spending hours bent over picking your tiny little green beans. Like, this amounts to a lot of food really quick. And they're really not bad chopped up and sauteed in a pan. They're really nice. So yeah, I'm going to give these ones a try this year. I got this Monarda or bee balm, and it's another flower that I know the pollinators will love. It makes a really delicious tea, supposedly, and I also want to try it for my bouquets this year, so we'll see how that goes. Lace flower, I got two different types, lace pink and lace blue. Again, first time growing these. I'm going to try those out in bouquets. I love this dark opal basil. I grew it for the first time last year, and it's a little bit richer in taste than like a typical green basil. I'd say it has a little bit more depth. It's also really gorgeous in bouquets. It adds a nice foliage, but like instead of like a typical green foliage, it has these really dark, beautiful leaves and really cute flowers. So I'll be using this both for bouquets and for herbs. Collards. This is my first time growing this variety called Georgia Southern Collard. We've had good luck with collards in the past, so I just figured I'd try this nice heirloom variety and see how that does. And let's move on to Territorial Seed Company. Didn't get too much from them. Alright. So from them I got Damsel, which is technically a hybrid tomato, but it eats and looks like an heirloom. It's this nice plump slicing tomato that's pink, and it is just delicious. It's really good. You'll notice with most of our tomatoes we kind of lean more towards hybrids than we do heirlooms. I know heirloom tomatoes are all the rage, but we've just had a lot more luck with hybrid tomatoes with disease resistance and being like good productive plants. That's not to say I haven't had a good heirloom tomato, but we just find they're a lot easier to manage when they're actual hybrids selected over the years for good disease and holding up qualities. This is a honeydew melon called Moonstruck. It's a white honeydew inside and outside, I think. I'm still on the hunt for my favorite honeydew melon, so if you have any suggestions, I'd be very happy to hear. We have had snow leopard before, which is definitely a good honeydew, but I'm looking for that melon that's really got that perfect honeydew flavor. This one's supposed to have a really high Brix percentage, so we will see how Moonstruck goes. Next we have Sugar Rush, which is another cantaloupe that Rory's been wanting to try. It's supposed to be just as good as Sugar Cube with sweetness and disease resistance, but it's supposed to be a little bit bigger of a cantaloupe, so we figured we'd give that one a shot. I got another cucumber, Mini Me, which is a nice short slicing cucumber, really prolific. We got purple top turnips, which we haven't successfully started on time yet, but this upcoming season we want to really focus on getting our fall crops in the ground, so figured we'd try a classic purple top turnip. Alright, and the last package today is from a company that I actually have never ordered before, but I got their catalog in the mail, I think. I don't know how these seed companies find it, but they do. And this one's called Prairie Moon Nursery. And the thing that attracted me to their catalog and their site is they really focus on Native American plants. And they even dive deeper into that. So not only can you go to their website and find plants that are native to America, but you can also specify your region. So I was able to go in and look at plants that are specifically native to Rhode Island and Massachusetts, which is really nice to localize your plants to help the native species that are already here. So I think that's really cool. So I got some really interesting flowers from them, hoping that I can use them for bouquets and so I can put them around for the pollinators, and a lot of these also you can make teas out of and they're good medicinally, so it really feels like we're stacking functions with these. Also a lot of these are perennial. Actually, I think all of these are perennials, so perennials are also really nice when it comes to permaculture, homesteading, and farming, because once they're there, they're usually established for a long time and they're usually pretty reliable. So the first one I got is anise hyssop, and I've always heard about this one. I'm pretty sure it's in the mint family, and really good for pollinators, as all mints are. It's supposed to have these really pretty bluey purple flower spikes, good for bouquets, and also supposed to make a really nice tea. So basically when it has those three functions, I'm sold. If it's good for bouquets, good for pollinators, and good for tea, like, it's just a winner in my book. And then I also have wild leek seed. These are also known as ramps. I've been wanting to grow these for a few years now. I know they can be tricky from seed, but we'll see how I do. I'm going to give it a shot. And these are perennial spreading, basically like spring onion type of things with like a garlicky taste. So it's pretty cool. You'll let the patch get like established over a few years, but then you can go out early spring and harvest your own wild leek patch. Angelica is another medicinal plant that I've heard of for a few years now, and it's also supposed to produce really cool looking flowers and be good for pollinators. So a lot of these are going to have the same overarching compass of their function. Partridge pea, I honestly can't even really remember what this flower is. Ah, yes, I remember. This is also known as sensitive plant, which we used to grow years ago at the farm I work at, and we have since stopped. But the really cool thing about this plant, besides being native and good for pollinators, is it actually slowly moves after you touch it. So its nickname is called sensitive plant. So when you touch the leaves, they'll like gently close, which I've never experienced, but I thought that might be kind of fun to try, and I thought that'd be really fun for when the nieces and nephews come over to mess around with. This flower is called prairie smoke, and it's supposed to be these cool plumes of like pink, which I thought would be really cool for bouquets. Cardinal flower, again, perennial, bright red flowers for bouquets, attracts hummingbirds and pollinators. I don't know if this one is edible. It doesn't say it is, but just another really good one for the landscape and for bouquets. And this sundial lupin, again for pollinators and bouquets. So a lot of these flowers, I'm really hoping to kind of start a perennial wildflower patch, which I think will just be a really cool way of stacking functions in our permaculture system while also making it beautiful, while also perhaps making a few dollars from selling bouquets. So, wow, and I think that's it for now. It's a lot of seeds here. And this actually isn't even all the seeds I'm going to order, because, of course, after I finished my orders, I realized that there are still a few varieties we needed. But let me know what seeds you guys are really interested in growing this year. Love to hear any feedback from certain varieties that did well for you. And, yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Seeds. We've got lots of seeds.